Welcome to Uncensored Conservatism. This is episode 238, going around the United States, hopefully in less than 12 minutes, starting here in Maine, where a federal judge has dismissed a lawsuit brought by Republican State Senator Laura Libby, who was censored by the Senate for reposting a story about a male who competed in a girls' sporting event. As a result of that censure, she cannot speak on the Senate floor or cast any votes. See how this pans out. A federal judge in Vermont ruled that this Turkish student at Tufts University, held in detention as an illegal immigrant in Louisiana, must be returned to Vermont no later than May 1st to determine if her student visa could be revoked. Now, here's my problem. They come to this country and exercise their free speech and due process rights instead of fighting for free speech and due process rights in their home countries. Foreign student visas are not a constitutional right, in my humble opinion. And in New Hampshire, this is an ACLU lawyer, a judge will decide whether the Trump administration can block DEI efforts in public schools. More of my opinion. School districts and states have to make a choice. Stand on your principles or accept federal education dollars. It's just that simple. Rhode Island, yeah, you suck and you're just boring. Oh, wait a minute, you have a dickhead for a senator. Jose Morales of Connecticut faces up to 65 years in jail after he was convicted of killing his ex-girlfriend. The girlfriend's daughter, who was 4 months old at the time, has never been found. Now, Morales claims it was a home invasion and the daughter was kidnapped. And this, folks, is your next Dateline episode. I mean, yeah, people broke into his house and just kidnapped this 4-month-old, killed your girlfriend, and left you alone. Go figure. Police in Winchester, New York were called into duty to capture a runaway alpaca who managed to escape from a trailer. The alpaca was safely captured, but since this is New York, they decapitated the animal to determine if it had rabies. Nah, I'm just kidding. They didn't do that. A wildfire in New Jersey managed to shut down the Garden State Parkway for hours. Recently, the fire has burned about 13 miles of forest and forced the evacuation of over 3,000 people. Also, power was cut to 25,000 residents in the area. Police in Pennsylvania are trying to determine a motive for Cody Palmer, who set the governor's mansion on fire while the governor, Josh Shapiro, and his family were asleep. Considering that Palmer told police that he hates Shapiro, I think they got their motive. The Supreme Court recently heard oral argument in a case brought by Maryland parents against the school's policy of introducing gay and transgender literature in the curriculum. The parents aren't fighting the curriculum per se, but want the schools to allow the students to opt out at the parents' request. We'll see how this one plays out with the Supreme Court. This is William Call Me Sarah McBride, a Delaware congressperson. It was recently determined that Sarah still has a dick and balls. Well, the Lumbee tribe of North Carolina will soon find out if they will receive official recognition by the federal government and all the benefits that go along with it. It's undetermined how many Lumbees there are in North Carolina. I believe the Trump administration is requesting their recognition. The state Senate in South Carolina voted to oust State Treasurer Curtis Loftus after it was discovered that there was a $1.8 billion error in the state budget dating back almost a decade. And I mean, that's a major accounting error for State Treasurer, so adios. Georgia State Senator Jason Estevez announced that he will run for governor in 2026 for the Democrats. He becomes the biggest name thus far to enter the race for the Democrats, although there are still some out there. The biggest of all being Stacey Abrams. I mean, literally, she's big. Visitors to St. Augustine in Florida can now cuddle with the world's largest rodent, the capybara. Reservations are booked months in advance at the Capybara Cafe, which opened last October and has been a wild success. Hopefully, the capybara will not replace the llama as the coolest animal in America. Yeah, this is James Osgood, and I don't know what that bump is on the back of his head. And anyway, he announced that he will not block his scheduled execution in Alabama, claiming he was rightfully convicted of murder. He believes in the eye for an eye theory, so yay for him. And thankfully, Myrtle, a pet tortoise, showed up weeks after being lost amid tornadoes in Mississippi. Myrtle was injured when two trees fell on his home, in her home, its home, in the backyard of its owners. She, it, they, them, is expected to make a good recovery from their injuries. The Tennessee Parole Board issued a recommendation that the governor pardon country star Jelly Roll. Currently, because of convictions in his earlier years, he is restricted from international travel, so let's just do the right thing here. Republican Congressman Andy Barr of Kentucky announced that he will run for senator in 2026 to replace the senile Joe Biden of the Republican Party, Mitch McConnell. Good luck, Andy, and good riddance, Mitch. Okay, so a federal judge in Ohio struck down a law as unconstitutional and violating the First Amendment that would have required parental permission to use social media apps for anyone under the age of 16. So, a minor can access social media. It's a constitutional right, but a state senator in Maine cannot repost something on social media without repercussions. Please explain this First Amendment thing to me again. Democrat Congress thing, Haley Stevens of Michigan threw her hat in the ring to run for governor in 2026 to replace the term-limited Wicked Witch of Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer. This will be a closely watched race. This is Tony Evers, the almost as weird as Tim Walz, governor of Wisconsin. His office recently issued a memo to state workers basically encouraging defiance of ICE officials should they show up in a state office, although I really doubt that too many illegal aliens work in these offices. Then again, it is Tony Evers, so you just never know. Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds announced that she will not seek another term after holding the office for almost a decade. Although reliably a red state of late, Democrats hope to snag this seat with the right person. The St. Louis Blues are surprisingly in the Stanley Cup playoffs, and they attribute their participation to their good luck charm, Jobu. Yes, it's that Jobu from the movie Major League, so expect some criticism for racism or cultural appropriation in a sport dominated by white people. Oh, God. 3 men and a teenager find themselves in legal trouble in Louisiana after they decided it would be a great idea to ride some horses through a local Walmart store and then film their escapades. It's not a bright move all the way around. And you ever see a horse take a piss? It's like a fire hose, man. In Kansas, lawmakers overrode a veto by Democratic Governor Laura Kelly of a law that requires child support payments for fetuses, the babies in the womb, and grant tax breaks for pregnancies and stillbirths. Abortion proponents fear that babies in the womb will soon be granted a constitutional right, like, the right to life, the right to be born. In other good news, a bill that would ban transgender from sports and bathrooms of the sex they think they are into the sex they actually are is advancing through their legislature. So Godspeed to that law. South Dakota recently disapproved of a proposed carbon capture pipeline in that state, throwing the entire project into question. Iowa, Minnesota, and North Dakota have already approved the multi-billion-dollar pipeline. Minnesota, sorry, you voted for this weirdo. You get to keep them. The Eastern Shoshone tribe in Wyoming recently voted the obvious and designated buffalo as wildlife. Now, they're still going to kill them and eat them and probably use their hides. They just won't be considered livestock. Not that anybody really does, but, we think they're wildlife. This is Tina Peters of Colorado, who was sentenced to 9 years in prison for using a fake security badge, allowing reps for My Pillow weirdo Mike Lindell access to Mesa County's election system in 2020. The Trump administration is urging her release. Although 9 years seems kind of harsh for this transgression, people get slaps on the wrist or worse. Trump needs to just let 2020 go. You're the president. So in Utah, listen, I think Mormons are a weird cult, but people donated to it out of the goodness of their heart. And a judge out there threw out a lawsuit alleging fraud against the Mormons, claiming they invested the donations instead of using them for charity. It seems the statute of limitations for fraud in Utah lawsuits had passed when the suit was filed. Steve Hilton, a conservative commentator, has thrown his hat into the ring to succeed Governor Hairgel Newsom as governor of California in 2026, and he's going to need all the luck he can muster because we're talking about California here, and they're just like whacked out leftists out there. So, batshit crazy Hawaii Senator Mazie Hirono, yeah, right. Mazie Hirono is considering filing a lawsuit against Mount Kilauea for that volcano spewing lava and gas into the air, contributing to climate change. Getting nowhere against the fossil fuel industry, Hirono says it is past time for volcanoes worldwide to be held responsible for climate change. And finally, in Alaska, former Governor Sarah Palin lost her libel lawsuit against the New York Times. She sued the paper after they ran an editorial that Palin contributed to gun violence after the shooting of Gabby Giffords in Arizona. And that's pretty much it. I'm under 12 minutes. Thanks. Have a great day and a more pleasant tomorrow.